In the vastness of the Milky Way, Earth remained a humble presence, teeming with life yet unaware of the vast complexities and dangers lurking beyond its solar domain. For Max Jensen, an astrophysicist by training and an adventurer at heart, the universe was a puzzle waiting to be solved. However, one fateful evening, while attending an interstellar conference on planetary alliances, Max unwittingly stumbled into a situation that would thrust him into the annals of human and alien interactions in the most bizarre manner imaginable. The conference was held on Xanthi, a neutral planet known for its grand libraries and peace treaties. Beings from across the galaxies gathered to discuss issues ranging from trade agreements to territorial disputes. Max, with his intrinsic curiosity for alien cultures, explored the myriad of exhibitions and interactive sessions. He was particularly intrigued by a presentation on the mating rituals of the Valorian species, a race known for their warrior ethos and deadly courtship practices. As Max wandered through the bustling corridors filled with delegates from different star systems, he accidentally entered a restricted area, mistaking it for a seminar hall. Inside, a ceremony was taking place. It was the Grand Kata, a mating ritual combat practiced by the Valorians. Before Max could retreat, the doors sealed behind him, and he found himself standing in the middle of an arena, surrounded by towering, muscular Valorians. The audience, mistaking his entrance for the announcement of a late contestant, erupted in cheers. Panic gripped Max as a giant screen displayed his name, Max Jensen of Earth, categorizing him as a participant. Despite his protests, the linguistic barriers and the crowd's excitement drowned out his attempts to clarify the mistake. Max's opponent was Drex, a famed Valorian warrior, standing nearly twice Max's height, with scales that shimmered under the arena's lights. The combat was non-lethal, designed to showcase strength and prowess rather than to kill. Yet for a human like Max, the physical disparity made the situation dire. Drex approached Max, his movements swift and calculated. The Valorian spectators were unfamiliar with human anatomy and capabilities, assuming Max's slight build was deceptive, perhaps hiding agility or cunning not immediately apparent. As the gong sounded, Max realized that his only hope was to rely on his quick thinking rather than strength. The combat involved evading and countering the opponent's moves to push them out of the ring or make them yield. Drex made the first move, lunging forward with incredible speed. Max dodged, using his smaller size and agility to his advantage, evoking surprised murmurs from the crowd. For several tense minutes, Max managed to evade Drex's attacks, using his knowledge of physics to anticipate and react to the warrior's moves. His strategy was simple: stay out of reach, stay alive. The crowd began to view him as a serious contender, their cheers growing louder with each close escape. As the match drew on, Drex's respect for this frail-looking human grew. The warrior's attacks became more calculated, his moves less aggressive, almost as if he were testing Max's limits rather than seeking to overpower him immediately. In a final, unexpected twist, as Drex charged for what he intended as a finishing blow, Max sidestepped at the last moment, using Drex's momentum to push him gently but firmly out of the ring. The arena fell silent, then erupted in an uproarious applause. Max had won, entirely by accident. The realization dawned on Max only when the chief elder approached him with a garland of rare xanthian flowers, signaling his victory. According to the ritual, the winner was granted the allegiance and partnership of all the females who had participated in the ceremony. Horror struck Max as he understood the implications of his unintended victory. As he stood there, surrounded by a crowd of cheering aliens, Max wondered how he would explain this to his colleagues back on Earth. The thought was almost as daunting as the combat had been. Max's victory in the Grand Kata had unforeseen consequences that stretched far beyond the confines of the arena. As the news of a human winning a Valorian mating ritual spread across Xanthi, it ignited a flurry of diplomatic activity. Ambassadors from various planets, intrigued and concerned by the implications of his accidental triumph, convened in urgent sessions to deliberate the matter. Back in the holding area of the arena, Max was swarmed by Valorian officials and curious onlookers, all bombarding him with questions and gestures he couldn't hope to understand. Among the chaos, a figure approached him, a Xanthian interpreter named Seri. She was assigned to assist him in navigating the sudden complexities of Valorian society. "Max Jensen," Sari began, her voice calm amid the tumult. "You must understand the gravity of your situation. The Valorians are a proud warrior race. The females you've won are highly respected fighters and strategists in their own right. This isn't merely about courtship. It's about alliances and power dynamics within their clans." Max, still reeling from the shock, nodded slowly. "I didn't mean to. I just wanted to avoid getting hurt." Sari smiled sympathetically. "Intentions aside, you are now in the center of a significant cultural milestone. The Valorians might view this as an opportunity to forge a bond with humanity, or they might see it as an embarrassment, a blemish caused by an outsider. We need to tread carefully." The first meeting was with the matriarchs of the clans involved in the ritual. These were formidable females, each commanding respect both on and off the battlefield. They observed Max with a mixture of curiosity and restraint, their expressions unreadable. Sari facilitated the discussion, translating the complex nuances of Valorian speech. "The matriarchs wish to know what you intend to do with your newfound status," she relayed. Max took a deep breath, aware that his next words could either ease the tension or ignite a conflict. "Tell them I have great respect for their traditions and warriors. I seek no claim over anyone. I wish only to find a way that honors your customs and resolves this situation peacefully." The matriarchs conferred among themselves, their low tones a harsh contrast to the earlier noise of the crowd. After a tense few minutes, they turned back to Max. "They propose a solution," Sari explained. "They will accept your renunciation of the ritual's rewards on one condition: that you participate in an exchange program designed to foster better understanding and relations between our species." Max considered the proposal. It was a way out of an immediate and potentially dangerous bind, but it also meant embarking on a prolonged engagement with alien cultures far more complex and volatile than he had ever imagined. "Agreed," Max replied, knowing that this decision would plunge him deeper into the intricate web of interstellar politics and cultural exchanges. The agreement was met with a mixture of relief and disappointment from the crowd. While some Valorians were intrigued by the prospect of learning more about humans, others felt cheated of a traditional conclusion to the ritual. As Max left the meeting under the protection of Sari and several diplomatic guards, he couldn't help but feel the weight of the universe on his shoulders. With each step, he was becoming more entangled in the cosmic dance of diplomacy and cultural exchanges that would define his life for the foreseeable future. Max's new role as a cultural ambassador led him to Tura Secundis, a space station orbiting a gas giant in the Valorian system, designed as a neutral zone for interspecies education and exchange. The station, a marvel of alien engineering, was a conglomerate of various architectural styles, each representing the aesthetics of its creators. Here, Max was to immerse himself in Valorian culture under the tutelage of the clan matriarchs and participate in their strategic gatherings and social functions. Upon arrival, Max was greeted by a delegation of Valorians, each adorned in the traditional battle armor of their respective clans. Among them was Kira, a matriarch whose reputation as a strategist was known across several systems. Her presence was both commanding and serene, an embodiment of Valorian grace and power. "Max Jensen, your participation in our rites has opened many doors," Kira began, her voice carrying a resonance that seemed to vibrate through the air itself. "Here, you will learn our ways, and we will learn yours. This exchange will strengthen the bonds between our worlds." Max spent his days attending workshops on Valorian military tactics and their philosophical doctrines. Nights were for social engagements, where stories and experiences were exchanged over meals of exotic, carefully prepared dishes. Max found himself particularly intrigued by the Valorians' art of storytelling, which was not just a form of entertainment, but a sophisticated method of recording history and imparting lessons. The station's central hub was a vast library, housing texts and artifacts from countless civilizations. With Sari's assistance, Max delved into these resources, eager to understand the intricacies of the cultures interacting on Tura Secundis. His understanding of Valorian society deepened, and his respect for their customs grew. However, this immersion brought about a slow transformation in Max. The once clear lines of his earthbound identity began to blur as he adopted Valorian mannerisms and speech patterns. One evening, during a simulated war game designed to test strategic thinking, Max found himself leading a team of Valorian cadets. The scenario was complex, involving multiple factions and requiring delicate alliances. Max's strategies, influenced by his human perspective, surprised his team and opponents alike. His innovative approach led to a decisive victory, earning him admiration and a measure of fame among the Valorians. "Your tactics are unorthodox yet effective," commented one of the elder strategists, a grizzled veteran of many conflicts. "You bring a fresh perspective, one that challenges our norms." These words were a double-edged sword, making Max both a figure of fascination and a subject of scrutiny. His growing influence worried some traditionalists within the Valorian ranks, who viewed his alien ideas as potential threats to their cultural purity. As Max navigated the complex social and political waters of Tertia Secundis, he also had to manage the delicate balance of his evolving identity. Was he still just Max Jensen, the Earthborn astrophysicist, or was he becoming something more, something intertwined with the very fabric of the galaxy? His reflections were interrupted one evening when an emergency council was convened. A crisis had erupted on a nearby mining colony, and tensions were high. The Valorians, traditionally warriors, were prepared to respond with force. Max, however, saw an opportunity to apply his unique position and insights. "Perhaps we can resolve this without conflict," Max suggested to the council, outlining a plan that relied more on diplomacy and negotiation than on military might. His proposal was met with skepticism, but Kira supported him. "Let us try Max's way," she said. "It might not be our path, but it is a path worth exploring." As the council agreed to give Max's plan a chance, he realized that he was no longer just participating in an exchange program. He was actively shaping the future interactions between human and Valorian civilizations, forging a new path that could either bridge their worlds or sever them irreparably. The crisis on the mining colony served as a critical test of Max's growing influence within the Valorian society. The colony, a joint venture between several alien races, including the Valorians, had erupted in chaos due to a dispute over resource allocation. Traditionally, such conflicts were settled by the Valorians through a display of military might, which often led to a swift, albeit brutal resolution. Max's approach, however, steered the proceedings towards diplomacy, an almost unheard-of strategy in Valorian terms. Max, accompanied by Kira and a delegation of both humans and Valorians, traveled to the colony situated on a rugged, mineral-rich asteroid. The gravity was low, and the atmosphere, thin and crisp, required visitors to wear protective suits. The colony itself was a network of interconnected domes, each echoing with the discontent of its inhabitants. Upon arrival, Max initiated talks with the leaders of the conflicting factions. His aim was not merely to negotiate a truce, but to understand the underlying issues fueling the dispute. He listened intently to the grievances of each group, facilitating discussions that gradually shifted from hostile accusations to constructive dialogue. "Your method brings a new light to our old problems," one of the faction leaders, a gruff mining boss with cybernetic eyes, remarked after a particularly intense session. "Perhaps there is more strength in words than we have allowed ourselves to believe." Kira observed these interactions with a mixture of curiosity and caution. She understood the potential of Max's methods, but also recognized the risks they posed to the established Valorian hierarchy and its warrior culture. "You sway them with your calm and your reason," she noted one evening as they reviewed the day's progress. "It is a strange magic you wield." Max smiled, aware of the delicate dance he was performing. "It's not magic, just a different kind of strength, one that perhaps both our peoples can learn from." As the negotiations progressed, Max's strategy began to bear fruit. The factions developed a framework for resource sharing that was equitable and sustainable. More importantly, the process fostered a sense of cooperation that had been absent on the colony. However, the success of Max's diplomacy did not sit well with all. A faction within the Valorian military, led by a commander named Tarkus, viewed his growing influence and the shift towards diplomacy as a threat to their traditional values and power structures. Tarkus, a seasoned warrior with a commanding presence, began rallying those who were skeptical of Max's methods. "Valorians are warriors, not wordsmiths," Tarkus proclaimed during a gathering of his closest supporters. "This human leads us away from our heritage, from the very essence that makes us Valorians." Word of Tarkus's descent reached Max through Seri, who had intercepted communications hinting at a possible coup to reassert traditional Valorian values. The situation was precarious. A misstep could lead to civil unrest, or worse, a divide that could end the fragile peace on the colony and beyond. Max realized he needed to confront this challenge head-on. He requested a meeting with Tarkus, hoping to address his concerns directly and demonstrate that diplomacy could coexist with Valorian strength rather than undermine it. The meeting was arranged on neutral ground, in a chamber overlooking the stark, rocky expanse of the asteroid. Tarkus entered with his entourage, their armor clanking in the silent, tense air. "Commander Tarkus," Max began, his voice steady, "I respect the strength and bravery of your people. My intent is not to change who Valorians are, but to offer tools that can protect and expand your way of life in ways force alone might not achieve." Tarkus listened, his expression unreadable. The room was thick with anticipation, every word weighed with the potential to tip the scales. The chamber was silent as Max concluded his plea for a partnership between Valorian tradition and his diplomatic methods. Tarkus's steely gaze remained fixed on Max, betraying no hint of his thoughts. The tension hung in the air, palpable and dense, as the assembled warriors awaited their leader's response. After a long pause, Tarkus finally spoke, his voice gruff. "Your words, human, speak of peace and partnership, but they also challenge the very core of our being. Valorians have maintained order in our territories through strength and prowess. To shift from this path, even slightly, requires more than just convincing rhetoric." Max nodded, understanding the depth of the resistance. "Perhaps then, we could demonstrate the effectiveness of our combined strengths through a joint operation, one that uses both our tactical skills and diplomatic approaches. If we succeed, it could serve as a model for how these methods could complement each other, not compete." Tarkus considered the proposal, his brow furrowed in thought. Finally, he agreed. "A joint operation would indeed provide the test we require. We shall see if your diplomacy can stand on the battlefield of reality." The operation was planned as a response to a series of raids by rogue elements on the outer territories of the Valorian Dominion. The raids had been a thorn in the side of the Valorian military, eluding their usual confrontational tactics through guile and speed. Max and Tarkus assembled a mixed team of Valorian warriors and human strategists. The team was to deploy both force and negotiation, attempting first to understand and possibly integrate the raiders into the broader society, thereby removing the incentive for their attacks. As the operation commenced, Max found himself aboard a Valorian command ship, its vast halls a stark contrast to the cramped quarters of human vessels. The ship vibrated with the low hum of its engines, a sound that Max now found strangely comforting. The first encounter with the raiders was tense. The raiders, surprised by the offer of dialogue, were initially suspicious. Max, accompanied by Valorian translators, extended an offer of amnesty and support in exchange for ceasing their attacks. Tarkus's forces, meanwhile, stood ready to strike, a silent threat that underscored the seriousness of the negotiation. Slowly, through a series of tense meetings, an agreement began to form. Many of the raiders were disenchanted warriors, left behind by the rapid changes in Valorian society and seeking only to survive. Max's proposal offered them a chance to reintegrate, to find a new purpose. The success of the mission was celebrated as a triumph of this new hybrid approach. Tarkus, witnessing the effectiveness of combining force with diplomacy, began to see Max not as a challenger to Valorian ways, but as an ally who brought valuable new tactics to the table. However, the success also sowed seeds of unease. Max's influence continued to grow, not just among the Valorians but across other species who observed the successful operation. Envoys from different planetary systems sought his counsel, eager to understand how similar techniques might be applied to their own conflicts. This burgeoning fame, however, began to isolate Max from his human roots. His days were consumed with strategies and negotiations, his nights with learning and understanding alien customs and languages. The human delegation on Tertia Secundis watched with a mix of pride and concern as Max drifted further from them, becoming something of a bridge between species, but at what cost to his personal identity? As Max navigated this complex web of interspecies diplomacy, he had to Max's evolving role as a bridge between human and alien cultures brought him to a critical juncture. The universe watched, some with hopeful anticipation, others with concealed suspicion, as he navigated the complex interstellar politics. His approach, blending human ingenuity with alien traditions, had started to reshape the diplomatic landscape. On Tertia Secundis, Max organized a summit, the first of its kind, inviting leaders from multiple star systems, including humans, Valorians, and other influential species. The summit was designed not just as a forum for peace talks, but as a showcase of the successful strategies that had been employed in recent operations. The Great Hall of the summit was a microcosm of the galaxy, diverse beings from worlds apart, each carrying their own hopes and agendas, gathered under a banner of tentative unity. Max, now fluent in several alien languages, facilitated discussions, his presence a calming force in the midst of potential chaos. As the summit progressed, a framework for a new interstellar alliance began to take shape. This alliance would be based on mutual respect and shared benefits, recognizing the sovereignty of each species while providing a platform for collective security and prosperity. Max emphasized the importance of cooperation over conquest, a stance that slowly but surely gained traction among the delegates. However, during a closed-door session, a tense moment arose. A faction of hardline militarists, led by a rogue commander who had opposed Tarkus's newfound respect for diplomacy, staged a protest. They claimed that Max's methods weakened the traditional power structures and threatened the very fabric of their societies. Max addressed this challenge directly, his voice steady but forceful. "I stand before you not as a conqueror, but as a mediator. The strength of our galaxies lies not in our ability to wage war, but in our capacity to find peace. We must look beyond our battles to see the future we can build together." His words resonated with many, calming fears and rekindling the spirit of the summit. The protest lost momentum, and the rogue commander, unable to sway the majority, withdrew from the proceedings, a clear sign of the shifting dynamics. On the final day of the summit, the Galactic Accord was signed. It was a historic moment, captured in the holographic archives as a testament to what could be achieved through unity and understanding. Max, the accidental champion, had not only averted a potential crisis, but had also helped lay the foundation for a coalition that might one day encompass the entire known universe. As the summit concluded, Max stood looking out at the stars from the observation deck of Tertia Secundis. He had changed. No longer just a human or a diplomat, but a pivotal figure in the galaxy's unfolding story. The path had been arduous, filled with unexpected turns and profound revelations. Kira joined him, her presence a reminder of the journey they had shared. "You have taught us much, Max Jensen," she said. "You have shown us that there are many forms of strength. What will you do now, with peace on the horizon?" Max turned to her, a smile playing on his lips. "There is much to do, Kira. New worlds to engage, old wounds to heal. But first, I think I will go home. I have stories to tell, and perhaps through these stories I can inspire others as I have been inspired." As the stars twinkled above, a testament to the infinite possibilities of the universe, Max realized that his adventure was far from over. It was merely transitioning into a new phase, one that would continue to challenge and change him as he worked to weave the delicate tapestry of futures, not just for himself, but for all who shared this cosmic voyage.